Hey everyone, let's do the last two in section 3.6, numbers 19 and 20. We're going to compute the indicated derivative. Of course, in this section, we've been learning about the derivatives of the six trigonometric functions. So I just recapped those here. You should know the derivative of all of these. In the lecture video, I derived the derivative of sine. I showed you how and then asked you to derive the derivative of cosine using the limit definition. So we have those two down. Once we have those two, by the quotient rule, we can find the derivative of the remaining four. And so we write them in this particular form, usually too. So the derivative of tangent secant squared. Derivative of secant is, whoops, that should be secant x tangent x. I'm sorry. There's not a negative sign there. Um, Derivative of cotangent x is negative cosecant squared x, and derivative cosecant x, there's the negative cosecant x cotangent x. So some are positive, some are negative, and there's a pattern. You can use that. I mean, if you memorize them, that's fine. But if you forget, don't forget, we derive them, and you can use the quotient rule to find these, assuming you know the derivative of sine and cosine, which are fairly easy. You do have to remember which is which, and there are ways to remind yourself of that. I mean, you can look graphically at the functions to see if those relationships that we know are true for derivatives and their functions. Okay, so with that, let's look at number 19. H of t is 10 e to the t cosecant of t. So the function of t, notice I've got a product. I've got 10 e to the t. This is multiplication going on here. Cosecant of t. Remember, cosecant of t, that's not a product. That's a composition, right? It's really a function, right? Plugging t into the cosecant function. So it's not cosecant times t. Okay, so I take the derivative of the first function times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. So the derivative of the first is 10 e to the t. And as we set up here, the derivative of cosecant t, of course, replace x with t. It's going to be negative cosecant t cotangent t. And then I can clean this up here and write my result this way. Notice there's a common factor of 10 e to the t cosecant t. I can factor that out, leaving 1 minus cotangent t. Either of these forms will be fine. I'm writing it in the form that you typically, I think, have to put it in achieve. I don't know. It usually writes that, in parentheses, the cosecant of t. A lot of times we don't write that parentheses. We get kind of lazy. We probably should, but we don't. And so just be used to both of those notations. Okay, that's number 19. Number 20 is very similar. It's another product, 7x times sine of x. So again, I have a product of two functions. There's multiplication going on there. Derivative of 7x, which is 7 times sine of x, plus 7x times the derivative of sine of x, which we talked about above, is positive cosine of x. And so writing that out, there is the result. So again, two easy ones in a way to finish out. Just remember we have the rules of the six trig functions together with all the other rules that we've learned so far, product rule, power rule, quotient rule, etc. Okay, hope this helps.